What if I told you that somewhere beyond the reach of mortal eyes, desire and danger walk hand in hand? That in the shadowed forests of Transylvania, a man, or something no longer quite human, waits not merely to kill, but to tempt, to seduce, to pull hearts into a dance of lust and fear. Imagine a touch so cold it ignites fire in your veins, a gaze that promises both ecstasy and doom. This is a story of forbidden love, of passions that could never survive the light of day, of secrets whispered in the dead of night, where only shadows bear witness. Tonight, you will meet Dracula, not the villain of fairy tales, not the monster of idle superstition, but a figure whose charm and darkness have enthralled centuries. You will feel the thrill of hearts racing, the shiver of forbidden attraction, the intoxicating pull of danger disguised as romance. And as you listen, remember, every story of lust and blood is a story of longing, and no one is safe from desire when it wears the face of immortality. The story begins in a time when Europe trembled beneath the weight of its own ambitions. The 15th century, an age of kingdoms and crusades, where the cross and the sword ruled men's hearts. In the mountains of Wallachia was born Vlad Tepes, son of the dragon. History remembers him as a prince, a ruler both feared and admired. But behind the chronicles of bloodshed lies another truth, one whispered only in the oldest monasteries and forgotten tombs. They say that, as a child, Vlad vanished for 3 nights into the forests beyond his father's keep. When he returned, he was changed. His eyes, once bright and human, held an unnatural depth. He spoke little, smiled rarely, and gazed too long at the stars, as though listening to something no one else could hear. Some claimed he had been taken by the spirits of the mountains. Others said by the devil himself. Whatever the truth, something ancient had taken root in him. Decades later, the man the world called the Impaler reigned with terror. His cruelty became legend. Thousands impaled upon stakes, their bodies left to rot as warnings. But while men saw only savagery, there was purpose in his horror. He was testing limits. How much pain, how much fear, how much life he could drain from others before the world itself recoiled. Power thrilled him, but it was never enough. He longed for mastery, not only over nations, but over death itself. When he was betrayed, captured, tortured, and left to die, the darkness he had courted finally answered. Alone in a ruined chapel, bleeding and broken, Vlad called upon the spirits that had once whispered to him in the woods. He renounced his God, his soul, and his mortality. And the night answered with a whisper, "Drink and live." From that moment, the man became legend. Vlad Tepes vanished, but Dracula was born. He awoke in the cold embrace of the grave, no longer bound by breath or heartbeat. Hunger defined him now, not for food, but for blood, warmth, and the spark of the living. The first time he fed, he wept, not from shame, but from rapture. Every heartbeat he stole was a symphony, every drop of blood a confession. He realized that love and hunger were not opposites, they were the same. Both devoured, both destroyed, both promised eternity. As centuries passed, Dracula refined his existence. He learned to walk among mortals again, wearing charm like a mask. He became the nobleman, the scholar, the traveler who appeared unaged across decades. He haunted the courts of Europe, drawn to beauty, ambition, and sin. In Vienna, he attended masked balls, where candlelight flickered across powdered faces. The Empress herself noticed the mysterious count whose eyes burned like storm clouds. They danced once, and in that single waltz, she felt her heart surrender to something she did not understand. Days later, her servants found her fainted in her chambers, lips pale, a single crimson mark upon her throat. She lived, but never again was she the same. Her diaries, locked away after her death, spoke of a man who kissed like winter, yet burned like fire. From Vienna, he traveled to Paris, the city of art and excess. Here, Dracula's hunger turned to fascination. He moved among poets and philosophers, feeding not only on blood but on ideas. He inspired the romantics who dreamed of death as passion, of beauty as torment. Some swore his silhouette appeared in the writings of Baudelaire and Gautier, a muse of decadence, cloaked in shadow. But even in his elegance, he could not escape conflict. Across Europe, whispers of the undead spread like wildfire. The Vatican sent inquisitors armed with relics and faith. Hunters rose, guided by vengeance and superstition. Among them was Lucien d'Artois, a scholar turned zealot who tracked Dracula for decades. Their encounters became legend, battles fought not merely with blades, but with words, intellect, and will. Lucien saw in Dracula not just evil, but tragedy, and in another world, they might have been allies. Yet every duel ended the same. Dracula triumphed, not by strength, but by understanding the hearts of men. He could read desire like scripture. He knew when fear turned to fascination, when hate trembled into longing. Lucian fell not to Dracula's fangs, but to his own weakness. One night, he allowed the Count to live, because in Dracula's eyes, he saw the reflection of something unbearably human. There were others, rivals not born of man, but of the same dark curse. The pale queen of the Carpathians, Ilona, was once his equal. She ruled her domain with beauty that rivaled the moon, and her thirst was as vast as the Danube. When they met, the world itself seemed to hold its breath. Their love was furious, destructive, a union of predator and predator. For years, they shared power, pleasure, and blood. But love among immortals is never pure. It corrodes, it consumes. When jealousy bloomed, their passion turned to war. Their final battle tore the skies above the mountains. Storms raged for 3 days, and villages were swallowed by floods. When it ended, Ilona was gone, buried beneath a frozen lake. Some say she still lies there, her body uncorrupted, her eyes open, waiting for him. And on winter nights, when the wind howls across the ice, villagers swear they hear her voice calling his name. Through centuries, Dracula's legend spread. In the palaces of England, the royal court whispered of a stranger who appeared at midnight, speaking in perfect tongues, telling stories of lands forgotten by maps. Some claimed he conversed with Queen Elizabeth herself, offering secrets of eternal youth. Others believed Napoleon's fascination with destiny came from a mysterious traveler who told him that the world belongs to those who defy death. History forgets faces, but Dracula remembers them all. Monarchs, conquerors, poets, and lovers, each left a trace upon him, and he upon them. Wherever ambition met vanity, wherever love danced too close to ruin, he was there. But immortality carries its own torment. Though centuries passed like days, loneliness grew like rot in his heart. He could seduce queens, but not keep them. He could love, but never be loved without consequence. Every embrace ended in tragedy. Every whisper of affection turned to dust. The women who fell for him became both his comfort and his curse. Their beauty preserved by his bite, their devotion turned to hunger. They became his brides, his companions in eternal night. Yet, even among them, he remained alone. There are moments, rare, fleeting, when Dracula remembers being human. Standing by the window of his castle, he watches dawn creep across the horizon, the light he can never touch. He feels it on his face, not as warmth, but as memory. He recalls laughter, the sound of his mother's voice, the scent of wildflowers before a storm. Then, as the sun rises higher, the illusion fades. He turns away, returning to his coffin's embrace, where silence holds him tighter than any lover ever could. Still, he endures. He endures because he is both myth and mirror. To the fearful, he is the monster that feeds on the innocent. To the yearning, he is the lover who transcends mortality. To the ambitious, he is proof that power never dies. It only changes form. His transformations, bat, wolf, mist, are not tricks of nature, but reflections of our own desires. He becomes what we fear most and what we crave most. In the villages near his castle, the old still tell stories. They say that when the wind carries the scent of roses in midwinter, Dracula walks again, that his shadow passes over frozen fields, and his eyes burn like embers in the mist. Some claim to have seen him riding through the woods on a black horse, cloak billowing, silent as death. Others speak of travelers found on the roadside, pale but smiling, as if they'd seen something beautiful before they died. In the 19th century, as science rose and superstition waned, his legend changed form once more. He became a fascination for scholars and explorers, a ghost of history wrapped in charm. Letters between aristocrats mention a reclusive nobleman living in the Carpathians, fluent in every language, possessing a library that rivaled the Vatican's. His estate, impossible to find unless he wished it, became a place of pilgrimage for those seeking forbidden knowledge. Among them was a young historian named Emilia Novak, who sought truth in myth. She spent months searching for the Count's castle, driven by curiosity and an ache she could not name. When she finally found him, she expected horror. What she found instead was sorrow. He greeted her as though he had been waiting centuries. Their conversations stretched into nights, into weeks. She recorded his words, his memories of empires, of lost loves, of the endless ache of existence. But as she wrote, she began to feel it too, the pull, the fascination, the desire to belong to something eternal. He warned her to leave. "You are light," he said, "and I am the shadow that loves it. But love is the oldest defiance." She stayed. When she disappeared, her journals were found near the foot of the mountains, her handwriting fading into tremors. The final page read, "He did not take my blood. He took my heart, and I gave it gladly." Such is the nature of Dracula's legend. It blurs the line between victim and willing sacrifice, between hunger and love. Each story ends the same way, one heart beating faster, another growing still. As time moved toward the modern age, the Count learned to adapt. He became myth, story, cinema, rumor. The world that once feared him began to adore him. His name filled theaters and pages, his image transformed into art. And perhaps that is his greatest triumph. Not that he survived, but that he became immortal through our imagination. Because Dracula is not bound to the past. He is in every forbidden touch, every sleepless night haunted by desire, every longing we hide behind civility. He lives where passion meets danger, where love becomes obsession, where fear becomes pleasure. He is in us as much as we are in him. And so, as this tale draws to its close, remember, Darkness never dies. It waits, patient, seductive, eternal. If you felt his presence tonight, if the echo of his story stirred something inside you, then perhaps he's already found you. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like, because some legends are too eternal to face alone, and the night is just beginning.